Welcome to the Matt Beck Podcast. Woke up this way. He's got a lot of cool stuff he's going to show you today. The latest news, industry topics, and business tips. For all hairstylists and salon owners, it's time to flip the script. Grab your precision scissors, barber combs, and swivel twist razors. Let's cut a bob, a quick shag, pixie cut with a little bit of flavor. Check out the live classes, product reviews, let's rock on. Don't forget to check out freesaloneducation.com. I woke up this way. It's going to be a great day. Chop it,
what's up, guys?
Flip it. I woke up this way.
So, super excited to be hanging out with all of you today, and I'm launching a new technique. Yesterday on the show, somebody requested the air balayage technique. So today, I'm going to debut that for you. I'm also going to do a live voiceover, so that way you guys can watch the technique. I can talk about it, talk about what I did, and then you guys can ask questions as well. And then that way I think we'll get more learning in, which will be really fun. So that's going to be the debut. It's going to be the first thing that we do today. Make sure that right now you are in the chat. In the chat, start chatting. Also, if you could do me a huge favor and just share this show, hit the share button, share it on all the social media platforms that you can. That's the only cost of any of this education today, is just doing that for me. That would be awesome. Hello to everyone. Hello, Lynn. Lynn, you're on right away. You did it. Grizzly, Roya. Got some cool names in here today. Michelle. Michelle's a cool name, too. Nancy. Patrice. Marina. Don already did. Don, you're my favorite today. Already shared. You're the best. Awesome. And it seems like we got some beauty schools on today too, which is really cool. So welcome to all the beauty schools out there. If you're, post your salon name, your school name, whatever it is, post that into the chat. I love seeing where you guys are coming from, where you work, where you go to school. Let's blow the chat up today. It's Thursday. I'm feeling really good. I'm really excited to share this technique. Like I said yesterday during the show, we're taking requests the whole time. And what happened was somebody asked for an air balayage technique. And I, to be honest, didn't know. I'd never heard of air balayage before. So what I did was I went and looked for a technique. And I said to you guys, I'd go find the best person to do it, to show it to you. But I wanted to show it to you soon. So I looked it up. It didn't seem that hard to do. So I created a video yesterday. And that's what we're going to go over today. So I hope you're excited to see it. I'm excited to share it with you. The other thing I want you guys to think about today is, I want you to ask questions, because that's the way that we're going to grow together. So make sure that you're posting those questions. That's the great part about being on here live. So I've got this air balayage technique. Then we're going to go into, I got a layered haircut. Andrew Carruthers, I got a video with him doing a layered fine haircut. I'm doing a mid-length haircut. And some other cool things. So request what you want to see, because I can pull that up as well. We're going to get started now into this air balayage technique. I'm going to do the voiceover. So again, I'm going to be live on here. So if you have any questions, I can kind of see the chat as the video is going, and I will answer those questions for you. So here we go. All right, guys. So here is the air balayage technique. So basically what I did was I sectioned off the hair. I'm using Joico Defy Damage Pro Series 1. This is a bond builder that you actually spray on the hair, which is pretty cool. For me, it kind of separates everything out. It's Free Play is the clay-based lightener that I'm using, and then Lumishine 40 volume developer. And what I'm going to do is just work separating some of the section, take about an inch section, and then I use my blow dryer. I pinch the section and I use my blow dryer to blow dry it. And what's cool about this, guys, and I'm going to jump back over. I'm going to jump back and forth. But what's cool about this technique is you use the blow dryer and it's almost like teasing the hair. So what separates it is that you don't have that mess when you get back to the shampoo bowl to shampoo it out, because it separates the hair just by doing the blow drying technique. So really cool in that way. So let's get back to it. So then once I get the separation, all that hair kind of blow dries through, then I start my hand painting process. And because it's such a diffused look, I can really saturate this section, which is one of the things that I really loved. So Don saying air touch. You're right. It's air touch balayage technique. So I spray the Defy Damage on the section prior to putting the lightener on. And what's cool about the Pro Series 1 from Joico is that it'll actually brighten up your blonde. So it'll make it lift better and more consistent. And the other great thing about it is I spray it on the entire section. So unlike other bond builders, for me, it's getting on all of the hair, even the hair that I'm not lightening. So it's, building bonds in all the hair. So I worked my way through, just kind of working up the head about inch wide sections at a time. I found that worked for me. And you could see those little hairs, how they just kind of come out. Now, this is a fresh mannequin head, so all the hair is kind of the same length. If you had somebody with layered hair, I think this technique would work even better because as you start to blow dry, those layers kind of fall out and separate. But look how thin that section becomes just by hitting it with the blow dryer. Other tip for you guys, which might be obvious to some of you, use the cool side of the blow dryer. Don't be blowing heat onto your guest's hair and frying it before you put lightener on it. Just cool air just to blow the pieces and separate them. Guys, you're rocking it. We already hit 100 comments in the chat, which usually takes about 20 minutes. So good job. Keep commenting. Love seeing all of your reactions. And make sure you're posting questions as well. So I worked my way up. I'm just finishing up the back of the head, and I'm going to get up to the crown. Brian Hare's in the chat. What's up, Brian? Brian, I really need you to remake this video, actually. So I worked through hand painting it on, but notice I don't create too much of a V in that balayage because of the fact that I get so much diffusion using the blow dryer. So pinching the hair, working that blow dryer back and forth, look at those hairs kind of move their way out, and it just thins out the section, and then you can go in and balayage. Kristen, welcome to the show. Is this okay to do with thin hair? Christina's asking. I think it's all right. I obviously, so base it on your client's density, but when you take the blow dryer and you start to work that hair back and forth and you're blow drying out the hair, if they have fine hair, you're not going to do as much blow drying. You're going to do just a little bit. If they have nice thick hair, then obviously you're going to hold that blow dryer on a little bit longer. One thing I did notice about doing this technique is it didn't take as long as I thought. So for me, it was like, well, I can tease the hair and it takes less time. But it really didn't take much time at all to blow dry the hair out. And then obviously when I went back to shampoo, I had little tangle in the hair whatsoever. So that worked out really nice as well. Key to balayage is obviously making sure that in that base part of it, I don't go underneath the section with the lightener. I let it lay on top so I don't get any bleed marks. I'm not a big fan of using saran wrap. Some people are. I know Brian is a big fan of it. For me, I'm into speed and quickness in my techniques. So if I can cut out that piece, then I'll do that. Somebody was asking about the spray. Again, it's Joico Pro Series 1. It's their bond building spray. You don't have to put it in the lightener. You actually just spray it onto the hair, and it helps protect the hair from any of the lightning, but it also brightens the lightning as well. So you get more lift and the bond protection. And I love it because it's going on all of the hair and not just the hair that you're putting lightener on. What do you think about wearing a balayage straight? Jenny, you're going to be psyched because I decided in this video, because, you know, we've made many balayage videos in the past, and the biggest complaint is at the end, we curl the hair and then people say that they can't see it. So I did not curl the hair at the end of this. It is straight. So you guys will see how blended it looks. And that was kind of my key with this as well. Also, no, I'm not doing a haircut on this yet. I'm going to film a haircut today. So the end result obviously has some thin ends. But other than that, you'll be able to see the blend, the brightness, and all of that. And I'll show a comparison between a fresh mannequin and the lightened mannequin. Yeah, so somebody was asking, so no foil. This is a great, so if you like to do like a weave foil, this is a really great technique to kind of replace that as well. So it saves a ton of time not having to place those foils in and weave through. It gives you a lot of separation. I kept the top even a little bit brighter. So like we were saying, we play with density. I wanted to go through this and have that more brightness, the brighter feel on the top of the head. So I didn't do as much blow drying on the top, and I kind of let those, the hair kind of stay in this section so that I had a brighter top. How long to apply? No bleeding. So Sue, yeah, no bleeding. Didn't have any issues with that. But like I said, I kept the lightener on the top of the section. That's the key. Don't paint through it. And then on the ends, I would paint through it, but I didn't really have to worry about that. Processing time is 30 minutes. For this particular technique, didn't go any longer, and you can see how bright and beautiful that is and how seamless it really is. You know, and this is, I'm not an expert colorist, guys, and I did it real fast. So, and this is my very first time ever doing the technique. So you can see the difference, how bright that got. I didn't tone it. I'll probably do a toning video later. But you can see how real beautiful. You can see how real beautiful that is. So did you like it? What'd you think? Lynn says good job. Jenny says beautiful. So I'll take it. Michelle says looks great. All right. Let's see where we're at here. Okay. Here we go. I got some of you guys. Kristen says gorgeous. Patricia says awesome. This is the new thing I'm trying to figure out, how to get your comments up here. See if I can pull that through. I like this. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Let's see if I can. Oh, there we go. Okay. Man, the chat's blowing up today, and it's making me real excited. So I want to get into another video. We're loaded up. This is definitely the most people we've had on, so you guys are doing an excellent job. I can't tell you how excited I am and how much I just appreciate it. So Melissa's saying, she says, I missed this one. Well, Melissa, guess what? Don't worry. It's going to be on replay. It's also available on the FSE Now app, which is available on the App Store. You should go out and get that thing. Here it is. Little commercial, little plug. FSE Now free app. It's 100% free. You can get involved in the community. Got a huge update coming up this weekend. The whole app platform is going to look even different and better. So go download the thing and get ready for it. Here is our little ad about it. All right, and there it is. So FSE Now is available on the App Store, Android and iPhone. You can download it for both platforms. It's completely free. And if you're app challenged, which happens because I get the emails a lot, go to freesaloneducation.com and you can sign up there. It's free. It's the same thing. You get all the education for free, and the community is on there so you can post your work, and I can't wait to see it. Thanks, Brian. All right. So now we're going to get into a mid-length haircut. This one I did probably a few months back. I really like it. I like the look of it. It's got a curtain fringe, so I think you guys will dig that. And let's get into it. And you guys can ask the questions. Make sure you're sharing it. Please share this video. Share the show. Let's keep growing this thing. We've definitely grown it, and I'm psyched for you guys. I'm psyched to have you guys being a part of the build of this whole thing. So, all right, here is the mid-length cut. Hope you like it. All right, so we're going to start off today's video by taking a center parting. So we're just going to work our way right down to the crown, and then I'm going to find where the head starts to curve right in the fringe area, and that's where I'm going to draw my triangle right straight down the hairline. So notice I look for that hairline because I'm looking to work with similar density throughout the entire cut. I twist up that triangle, clip it out of the way. That's literally going to be the only section that we really take throughout this whole cut. So it's going to be pretty simple in that aspect. So now I'm going to add in Paul Mitchell Neuro Prime. It's a nice blow dry primer. It's got a nice medium light hold. I put it in the hair, helps protect it from heat. So I'll put it in there. It helps control the hair while I cut it, and then it helps with protecting the hair when I blow it dry. So to start this haircut off, we're going to work on the left-hand side of the head. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way back this entire section until I get to where the hairline starts to drop into the nape, into the back of the head, right behind the ear. So working off the curve of the head, I really want to create almost a concave feel to the sides of the cut. Nice short layers, skinnying up the bottom, and just creating layers that really fall nice around the ear, and then remove that weight from around the sides. I'm also taking some density away from the outer perimeter of the cut, which we're going to cut at the very end. So a few different techniques we're going to throw into this, and things I think you'll find very valuable in the salon as you're working. So notice I didn't start this haircut by cutting the length. I'm really working on the interior shape first. So everything's getting elevated up. I'm going to create layers that push off of the face. The way that you do that is you cut the hair towards the face. So I'm over directing everything over that very first section. So it becomes a stationary guide, taking vertical partings and pushing the hair. You can see I'm pushing it right over top of that first parting that I took, that first section that I took. So everything's going to section 1. I'll continue that cut all the way back to just behind the ear where that hairline starts to drop. That's where I'm going to change things up. So notice I'm going back to that point. That's because the density is all the same in that section. It's really important as hairdressers, and those of you guys that are getting more into advanced hair cutting, or even in school, just to understand the different densities that you're working with in the hair. What is the formation of the hair? How much hair are you working with? How does the hairline flow? Because when you look at the hairline, that's going to determine the outer perimeter of that cut and kind of the density throughout it. So the sides, I'm cutting both the same. So now we're working on the right hand side. The only difference is you always want to free up that bottom, that elbow, when you're cutting concave shapes. So I'm standing in front of the head, pulling everything to me, which tends to be a little bit easier anyways because you're pulling it towards yourself. Anytime you're pushing away, it gets a little bit harder to stay consistent. So notice it's just a straight line across. Somebody in the comments is going to say something about me wearing black clothes and dark hair. It's okay. Look at my fingers. Look at the angle. You can still see the hair if you look at it. There's a couple highlights that pop through in there. But just look at my finger angle. That's what you need to be judging. That's the most important part. You can see my hands very clearly in this video. So all the way parallel to the floor is how my fingers are working across. That's the cutting line that we're creating. So I go all the way back to where that hairline starts to drop in the back, and that's where I'm going to stop on the sides. So because I'm over directing everything to the front, all of those layers are starting to get longer towards the back, and that's really the goal. You also have to look at the head shape. The head shape is curving a lot in the back of the head. So it curves not only in the crown area, but then around the occipital bone as well. So I'm now not going to cut concave, and I'm going to work just a straight line, still parallel with the floor across, and I'm going to cut more square layers or balanced layers in the back. So my guide is now going to be traveling. It's not going to be stationary. So I'm going to cut my first section, and then I'm going to work my way across that way. So you'll see everything's over directed straight up, and we're going to hit the over top angle. So you can see that everything's just coming back to that previous section. So we're traveling across the back of the head, creating a balanced line horizontally and vertically. See, I grab a little bit of the old and then bring in the new. I'm working my way all the way over to that hairline. Everything coming straight up, parallel to the floor, straight up in the air. Now, if I had a guest that had a higher density of hair and I really wanted to remove some extra weight, I could even shift my finger angle even a little bit more in this and cut more concave layers in the back. That would take out some more weight. If she had high density, then maybe I would go in with some point cutting instead of cutting a blunt line. That tends to take out a little bit more weight. So there's different options based on the density of your client's hair. So in this last section, you'll notice there wasn't anything to cut. So I move on. Now we're going to go into the fringe. So what I wanted to do is cut a nice open kind of curtain fringe, if you want to call it that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with a little bit of elevation. I'm going to work with vertical partings. One little tip, and this is something I learned from Richard Manna, I believe. He cuts the length. So notice that I'm checking where I want my guide to be. Then I have a ton of hair. So what I'm going to do is cut the bulk of it off first. Then I'm going to go in and point cut a line. And I'll show you guys that again so you can see it. But I go in and I point cut because I want to create a nice soft feel. So I cut the blunt line for my length. Then I go in with point cutting, a little bit of deeper point cutting. But here's the tip right here. So as I comb the hair over, I've got a lot of hair in my hand. So in order to control it, I cut the bulk of it off first. I don't go all the way to the guide. I can still see my guide underneath. And then I go in and I point cut that length to match my guide. So what that's doing is just allowing me to control the hair a little bit better. I thought that was such a cool tip. Anytime I'm around a different hairdresser that I haven't worked with before, I always try to grab something from them that I can bring into what I do. And that was one thing that I really thought was cool, is just being able to control that hair, because sometimes when we're hairdressers, when we go in to cut that long hair that's over our fingers, it's challenging and it gets in the way. So just take that bulk off, then go in and cut your lines however you would like. So the last bit, I wanted this to be a medium length haircut, so we cut some shorter layers in there, cut the interior part, and now we're going in, cutting the exterior, the perimeter line. I wanted it to be a little bit more of a blunt feel, nice solid line. So I'm just cutting everything at that one length, and the layers will kind of come to life from there. So cutting off, making sure all the hair looks nice and healthy as we work through it. And this is a great medium length cut for your guest. So now I'm going to blow it dry. I'm going to use Paul Mitchell Lift. We're going to do some color real quick too, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to play around with, Paul Mitchell sent me their new VG series. I used it in a past video to make a blonde, but they have a level 5. And I was like, well, if it's a violet gold, then what does it look like at a level 5? So thought I'd put this all over the head and get a really nice idea for what that tone looks like. Thought you guys might find that interesting as well. So we're going to deepen her to a level 5. Now, definitely one thing that I've noticed about this color is that it's got like kind of an iridescent feel. So when it hits the light, you get different shades from it. It's a VG, which you would think is violet gold, but it's a neutral base, so with a violet kind of overcast. So I really love the violet tones that come through on it. You're going to see it in the end result, but that was kind of one of my favorite things about this color, because you're always looking for a nice violet but that looks natural, that kind of has that natural undertone to it. And a lot of them are kind of fantasy color looking. So this one, to me, just has that violet hue, that richness to it, but still violet, which I really, really love. And I think you guys will love in the salon as well. So check that out on paulmitchell.com. And that's it. I hope you guys like the cut. You can see the layers. You can see the opened up curtain face frame fringe. I hope you guys like it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel on Free Salon Education, everything, and also our Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching. Can't wait to share another video with you guys. It'll be coming soon. Thanks. All right. What'd you guys think? How was that video? You guys are killing it today. I'm loving watching it all, and I'm loving being able to put the comments up on to the screen. Now, here's the deal. If you go to our YouTube channel, which is just Free Salon Education, that's the easiest way for me to put your comment up. So it's also the easiest way to get notified. So I know some of you are on Facebook. I totally see all of your comments, and I'm going to answer a couple of those questions now. But if you want your comment thrown up on the screen, just go to YouTube and sign in and leave your comments that way. It just seems easier. Otherwise, it's just saying Facebook user. I don't know why. You never know. But a couple questions. Don said on Facebook, you always come up with so much different. Remind everyone to get notified each time you post. Now, here's a thing that you can do on Facebook. You can hit the reminder button on my profile. And in that way, anytime I go live, you'll get an alert. Just in case you never want to miss the first moment, like somebody missed the color technique, you won't miss it if you hit the notification. You can do that on YouTube as well. Victoria is asking, if you pull this up on the top, would it be a V from the middle part out to the ends? If you pull this up from the top, would it be a V? Probably yes. Yeah, most likely. So basically, anytime I think you're talking about like a V shape in the cut. Anytime I want to do that, I'm obviously pulling everything out to the sides. And then as that weight falls back, and then I'll go in on the outer perimeter and cut the V shape into it. So I get the weight shifting in that V shape, and then I'll go in and cut the outer perimeter. There was another question. I know, Brian. I'm sure you made that throw up noise. That's why I hear it in my head. You're in my head. What is the best hair dryer for use in the salon? I love the Dyson blow dryer. We use it a lot. Every stylist in our salon uses one. So, I mean, if you get the professional discount on the dryer, it's not too bad. You can do that through their website. You just fill out like a little form and you can get that. I wouldn't pay retail price for it. It's very expensive. Let's see. Love the cut. Love the color. Awesome. Glad you guys like it. I'm in cosmetology school and it is very educational and fun to watch while I'm at home and not able to go to school. Well, this isn't going to stop when you go back to school, so you got to figure out how to watch it no matter what. All right. Kristen saying YouTube alert is great. Went to beauty school when I was 37 and now 6 years in the industry. Love learning these new techniques and I love the industry. It's never too late. Good call. Jenny, good call. All right, cool. So next technique, this is going to be a technique from Andrew Carruthers. We're going to talk about layering fine hair. I also want to get some kind of men's cutting in there today as well. So I do have a men's cut that I want to line up for you guys. But with that being said, let's get started. This is Andrew Carruthers, who was on the show yesterday, and he's going to talk about layering fine hair. I think this is the video I want. Hopefully it is. If not, I'm going to stop it right away. But I think it is. I think we're good. All right, here we go.
Hi friends, Andrew Carruthers here, Education Director for Sam Villa. Today we want to talk a little bit about our challenging clients, those extra fine-haired ladies that want some layers, they want some texture, but they also want to keep density on the perimeter. It's a tough one, isn't it? So what really presents the greatest challenge when we're talking about this is the transition of density right here behind the ear, where the hairline changes from being much lower here, and then it starts to round up, and then change direction here right above the ear. Everything behind this, there's usually enough density to get some good layers and texture into the hair, but then when we hit this point, all of a sudden it feels like we can't go short enough here to give her the body, but also protect the density in the perimeter. So here's a little way that we've discovered that will help you out. First things first, we need to set up the hair with the proper product. For our fine-haired guests, we find that the One United is a nice spray because we can put it in and give them some conditioning benefits, but the Redken One United doesn't build up and get heavy where a lot of other leave-in conditioners do. Now, we want to add just a touch more protection to the hair, so we're also going to take a touch of Satinware 04 and add it just to the very tips of the hair. That's going to give it a little added protection and keep it glossy and smooth as we go through the blow dry. So we're going to start the haircut in the back. And this makes sense because this is the area we have the most room to play with. And I've already cut her right side so that you'll see the matched up pieces in the end. So we're just going to take a pie-shaped section from the high crown just behind the high point of the head. And we're going to take that down to the nape, down the center of the back of the head. Now, why do we take that section there? Well, because we want to really focus on the hair that's going to primarily live back here in the heavier part of the haircut. So we go just behind that high point of the head. Now, from there, we're going to take that section and we're going to keep it at a little lower elevation. And what that does is it keeps us making sure that we're cutting through more of the density down here. If we automatically start this by going super high elevation, especially on these mid-lengths, what tends to happen is we get a lot of body here and then it drops off really quick and it looks kind of heavy and shelfy down here. You've probably seen that before. So to begin the haircut, we're going to start at that lower elevation, which allows us to cut through more of the density in the perimeter. We're going to use our 6 1/4 inch Samvia Artist Series shear. We want something really, really sharp with a lot of precision because we want to be able to cut through the hair very easily. So we elevate pretty much 90 degrees horizontal, and what we mean by 90 degrees horizontal is flat with the floor. And then we're going to use our finger angle to create an amplified effect of that layering. So we're trying to get out to the ends quickly, but get very short here in the top. You can see that existing guide from the opposite side. We went quite short with it. So strong diagonal finger angle, and then we cut out towards our perimeter. Keep that 90 degrees horizontal. There's my guide. Out there's the perimeter down here. And we can be this dramatic with the layering even on a finer haired guest in that center back. Now, so that we start to transition things around the head, as we take our next section, we will over direct back to the previously cut section. So by using a traveling guide like that and over directing back, it's going to start to give me a little bit more length as we move around the head shape. Keeping the section sizes about 1 inch width. What's important is that they stay the same width. So again, that 90 degrees horizontal elevation, flat with the floor. Over direct back to the previously cut section to start to preserve some length as we move forward. And then just find that guide and match my finger angle. And you see how dramatic that angle is, and that's again so that we can still layer pretty thoroughly through the back of the head, but also get out to our perimeter quite quickly. Follow that diagonal and cut through. So I'm just going to continue on with one more section. Take a guide piece from our previously cut section there. And now when I take this next section, you'll see I'm going to be right there where the hairline starts to change. Now we do not want to go past that point with this section. See how it goes right to that hairline, but not in front of it. So make sure that you stop there. If we go past there, then we definitely run the risk of taking away our density. So this will be the last section that's down here at 90 degrees horizontal. Over direct back, find my guide, and cut away. All right, so what that gives us back here is a really nice, very thoroughly layered shape through the back, and it doesn't break off and stop down here and give us that weighty feeling in the center back. So now here's where things have to change. If I continue that moving forward, you can imagine what's going to happen to the density here. I may even create a bit of a hole over top of the ear there. So what we'll do then is we will take the guide from the previously cut section, and the main thing that's going to change here is elevation. So by increasing the elevation significantly, now we are going to preserve more density in the perimeter. So as we take this section, grab our guide, and now we're going to elevate 90 degrees vertical, and that's straight up towards the ceiling, so it's 90 degrees with the floor. So as we take that and we bring it straight up towards the ceiling, find our guide from our previously cut section, which is right there, and we stop. Now, here's the thing, you guys are thinking, oh, but isn't that going to create a disconnected area? No, it's going to create a detached area. Well, what's the difference? The difference is the mindset, friends. Of course, in hair school, we were all taught that everything has to blend, 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 touch, touch, touch. And it is an important principle to learn because it gave us our foundations, it gave us our techniques. Now it's time to start letting go of some of those things, but do it in a really intentional way. If I don't allow this to start to become detached from the back, I'm not going to be able to transition into the front and maintain density. So we're purposely allowing that perimeter to detach out and blending just to the top guide. I'm not worried about the guide at the back. And then again, amplify that level of layering through the shape by choosing a really strong diagonal finger angle so that as I get out to here, a lot of that density of the perimeter is falling out. So the sides and the back will match more. So as you can see, we maintained the density there on the perimeter. Now we'll continue forward just in vertical sections and over direct back to the previously cut section. Grab a little piece of my previously cut section for the guide. And then again, remember, we've changed our elevation. Now we're elevating 90 degrees vertical, straight up towards the ceiling. Over direct back to maintain a little bit more weight and density towards the face, and then cut that diagonal line. So again, take our next section. Now, if you do not want layers around the face, detach out the perimeter. If you want the layers around the face, then by all means, just continue on. There's our next section. From that side view, you'll be able to see the over direction back to the previously cut section. We find that by taking the backbone of the comb, come right to the edge of the section, and then straight up. Find my guide from my previously cut section, and cut. I don't have much to cut here. I actually had done a different haircut on the doll head a little while ago, but she had just enough to be able to upcycle her to this next haircut. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and just do a really simple blow dry so that you guys can see the finished result and how much more balanced the effect's going to be because of that change in elevation. Stay tuned, I'll be right back. All right, so here's our finished result, and just did a pretty basic blow dry, polished the ends up, gave it a little bit of a bevel with the paddle brush, just so you could really see it in as simple form as possible. I have done no refining, no retouching, anything like that. And you know what I really want you guys to focus on is how even the density is front to back. Sure, you can still maybe see a tiny bit more density through the perimeter on the back in relationship to the side, but you know, it's a much more balanced shape than if we would have done all highly elevated layers or potentially doing low elevated layers and completely destroying any density we had through that side. So the next time you have that guest in your chair that does have that very fine hair, but she still wants a lot of body texture and movement, try this out. We think you're gonna love it. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, leave them in the box below. We love to hear from you guys. Thanks again, Andrew Carruthers, Education Director for Sam Villa.
Yep, Andrew Carruthers, everybody. So I just love his videos. He breaks down everything so great. gets so technical, but so simple at the same time. I think that's, sometimes we overcomplicate to sound fancy, and no need. We're all here to learn, not to be confused. So I'm glad you guys like it. I can see in the chat that you like it. Do me one favor, now that we're building our bonds together, we're bond building. Let's go in the chat and tag one of your favorite hairdresser friends. Just go in there, tag them in the comments. And if you're on YouTube and you can't do that, then just hit the share button and share it if you haven't done that already. If you have, you've paid your price, and just enjoy the show. So I'm glad you guys are liking it. Great techniques for thin hair, fine hair, leaving that perimeter out. What was your favorite part about the video? Post that in the chat. Now we're going to get into, so Jamie Dana, who jumped on the show this week, not physically, but she provided her content. She said, I'm an open book, share my videos. So Jamie Dana is going to show us how to blend some gray. I did a little bit of a, what's it called? A survey in the chat, and you guys seem to want to see the gray hair. We'll do men's cutting right after, and then we'll end the show with that. Unless there's something that you definitely need to see, you can post that in the chat as well. But I want to get started here. This is a great video, a little bit longer in length, but it's packed with so much information that there's no reason to have it any shorter. And she does it on a live client, so you're definitely going to like it. Keep the comments coming. Let me know what you think about the video. And that's it. Here we go.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a highlighting and low lighting technique that helps you blend gray hair. So stay tuned. What's up, guys? Welcome to my channel. I am so excited to be sharing this video with you guys. A lot of you had asked me how I highlight, how I low light, and how to kind of blend some gray hair into my clients. So my client today is actually my mom. She is so awesome. She has probably about 75% gray hair, but she still wants to look young and fun, and so we actually blend in her gray hair with this special technique, and it is amazing for those clients who want to blend their gray, kind of disguise it without having to cover it or without having a lot of maintenance. Now, my mom does come in every 6 to 7 weeks, but that's just because she really likes getting her hair done and because she gets to see me, right? But the great thing is she actually doesn't have to come in every 6 to 7 weeks. She could probably go 8 to even 10 weeks because this technique actually grows out super nicely. It grows out really subtly, and you guys will see that in her before. It's been about 7 weeks since she did her hair, but it's still really beautiful. It's blended really nicely. It doesn't have a line of demarcation, and that is crucial. And this technique is going to be one that really sets you apart from other stylists. So I'm going to share with you guys how to do it, so let's get started. All right, so this is our before. You guys can see she's got some natural gray in there, and we are going to blend it out. This is about 7 weeks growth for her, but the best thing is, as you guys can see, as it's growing out, it still looks really natural, and it doesn't have like a major line of demarcation. So I really like this technique because it grows out so beautifully, and your clients are gonna love you for it. All right, so for her highlights, I'm gonna be mixing up just 25 volume, and I'm gonna be using my Blondor from Wella. I'll do about just a little over a scoop for her because I do her hair a lot. I know exactly how much we usually mix up. So I'm gonna do 25, and of course I'm gonna add in some Olaplex as well. So then for her low light, I'm going to do 15 volume with permanent color from Kenra. So I just do equal parts of 10 and 20. And the reason why I do 15 volume versus 20 or 10 is because I want there to be some gray coverage, but I don't want to pull up too much warmth, and so that's why I like to do a 15 volume. And then I'm also going to do our 8NA from Kenra. I really like this color on her. When it fades out, it still looks pretty neutral, and so that's why I really like it. So I'm going to mix this up here, and we'll have this be our low light. All right, so I always start my highlights kind of right in the back of the crown, and if you guys notice with my highlight method, I actually don't start sectioning, I don't section anything out, I just literally dive right into the hair. And another thing you'll notice is I actually foil backwards. So I always work off the client's natural part, and I kind of find where the apex is on their head and kind of start right about there. So here we go, we got her first section, and I do clip away this front section. And I'm gonna start with my first kind of highlight piece. Now I do wanna make sure that I'm getting both quadrants on both sides of the client's part line. So I'm just gonna start with my first foil here. And you guys can see I usually start with a low light, so you guys can see that we already have some of that previous low light formula in there. So I'm going to weave out this piece and grab my foil, and I'm going to lay my foil down and push the hair over it. So locking that foil into place. And then I'm gonna grab my low light formula right here. And once I'm done applying it, just fold it back over and go on to my next section. So I'm gonna grab a little section, and this is going to be left out of the hair. And grabbing my clip from before, just kind of clip this down so I have a nice clean section to start with. And then I'll grab my next highlight piece here. And you guys can see I actually kind of work with like more baby light type pieces, so they're a little bit smaller here. They're not like thick like regular highlights. So I'm just gonna weave this out, grab my foil, and just apply my lightener. Now one thing that you will notice me do is I do keep it a little bit off the root right here. I'm not going all the way down because we want to make sure, especially these back foils, they are going to be moved a little bit. So we just want to be sure that we're not, squishing them or having bleed marks or anything like that. And fold my foil down and continue down. So I'm going to probably do about 2 highlights to 1 low light. And I'll show you guys as we kind of work our way down. We're going to stop right about here because we're only doing a partial on her today, and then we'll work forward. All right, so I'm gonna do 1 last foil down here. So typically for a partial, this is about how far down I go, kind of right about where the head starts to kind of round back down. Again, every client's a little bit different. So for clients that have a lot of depth under here, she doesn't, because we always put kind of foils in there. We're not going to today, but we have in the past, so it's not too bad. But for some clients that have a lot of depth, I will sometimes put maybe just a few foils down here just to give them a little bit of dimension throughout the bottom. But again, it's always going to depend on that client and depend on the placement. And sometimes when my clients come in, I'll throw a few foils underneath, like in the lower section down here, and next time I'll throw a few more, so it evenly kind of gets a little bit of dimension underneath there, so it doesn't just have like a total like dark section down here. All right, so this is my last foil. And for a partial, I always just do it starting here and work my way down. If we were doing a full, I would start down here, work my way up, and then kind of meet this section. So I typically don't have these foils kind of bending backwards, if that makes sense. We don't want to over direct them too much. Okay, so now that I finished this last foil, I'm going to just kind of grab the hair and fold that foil in half and bring all my hair down until we get to that top section. All right, so now that I've finished folding back all of these foils, I will spin my client around and work forward. So I've spun my model all the way around, and as you guys remember, this was a low light, so I'm going to take my little piece, leave this out. This is our natural hair, and the reason why I like to leave some of the natural hair out is so that she doesn't have a solid line growing out. And again, that's what's really gonna help have that subtle grow out phase for her versus having a huge line of demarcation. So I'm going to weave this section and do the exact same thing. So lock my foil into place and grab my lightener, because this is going to be a highlight now. So I'm still doing about 2 to 1. Now I do vary my pattern. Occasionally I'll do every other, just to kind of break it up a tiny, tiny bit. But for the most part, I'm doing about 2 highlights to 1 low light. We'll fold that down. And then again, just kind of leave this little baby light section out and go on to the next one. So you guys can see these are very fine highlights. I'm not doing thick, chunky highlights. And the reason why, again, is we want this to grow out as naturally as possible. And so it's really, really important. The more fine you do your highlights while still packing a lot in there, will still give you that brightness the client wants, add that dimension, but without having it grow out really chunky or without it being like really big and chunky. So I'm just gonna keep moving down her entire part line till we get to the front, kind of finish up this mohawk section. And when we get to the front, I'll show you guys exactly what I'm doing. So now that I've gotten closer towards the hairline, you guys can see we're really close to the hairline here. I started to fold these foils back down. So after I folded them in half, I folded them in half again, just so when I'm clipping back these shorter hairs, I didn't have to reach them all the way back. So that's kind of an easier way to do it, and it also keeps the foils more locked in place. Now, you guys can see with her, she's got this little cowlick piece right here, and we wanna make sure that this is still getting touched, but not like chunky blonde. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to grab my natural low light piece and let that hang out. And then I'm going to grab a highlight. And we're gonna weave this out here. And I wanna make sure that I'm being really precise with this little section here, especially because she's got so many little baby hairs. So I do get really close, but I do love this brush from Framar because it allows me to, in case I got a little close, I can just kind of hold it up there with the tail comb. So I really like that brush. It allows me to be really precise and clean with my work. So that'll fold in half there. And then again, we're leaving out just another little baby light piece. And these little baby lights around the hair, look at this. She's got hardly any little hair here, but we still want to make sure that we're adding foils in here. And this is what's going to set you apart from other stylists in your area by doing these little face framing baby lights, because these are almost mimicking the gray that she has growing out naturally. So we're just barely touching them, right? You guys can see there's hardly any hair in that foil. But by doing this, this is really gonna set you apart from other stylists, and it's gonna help it grow out really nicely. So this little piece right around her hairline, I think is good to leave out because she has enough gray growing in there, so I don't think we need to highlight it. But when we come around here to the side, we are gonna make sure to get these little guys. All right, so now that we've gotten to these little sections right here on the side, I wanna make sure that I am getting these. So I just do a kind of just slice and just kind of weave out a little bit. Now, I like to use a regular size foil for these, but you could totally tear your foil in half and do a smaller foil here. Totally up to you and what works for your clients, but sometimes clients that have really fine hair, it does help having a smaller foil. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of barely pull this little guy through. And then clip this guy out of the way. And I'm gonna do another one of these. Now, these I usually like to do highlights instead of highlight low light. And the reason why is because we are trying to mimic her natural gray color coming in. So a low light wouldn't necessarily mimic that, and it actually might cause a warm spot just because it is permanent color right around the scalp. So I personally like to do highlights for these. Barely kind of tap that in there. And that's why sometimes having a smaller foil does help, just to get it in there a little bit easier for you. All right, so now that we've kind of clipped those up, I'm going to do her hairline pieces here. We'll clip that away just while we're working here. All right, so these are just gonna be my little highlights around the face. Now this isn't super, super baby fine. You could go more fine, but usually for her, this works really well. But again, it's all gonna depend on your client, what their hairline looks like. You guys know I say that in pretty much any one of my videos. So just figure out what works best for you and your clients. I'm gonna barely touch my whitener in there because she doesn't have very many roots. And fold this up right here. Now you guys can see that I over folded my foil. Sometimes that happens. I didn't mean to do that on purpose. All I'm gonna do is just kind of barely fold that back like that. And now I'm actually gonna do a low light right here for our, actually a highlight for our next one. So 2 highlights, and then I'll do 1 low light. This one is a little bit more of a baby fine one. I typically, depending on the client, like to do 2 highlights and then a low light, just to give it some depth right there too, so you don't have just like total blonde chunk, but I usually like to do 2 baby lights or 2 highlights first. And then this last little low light piece. And you guys can see these are the patterns that we've already done on her hair before. But you guys can see there's a little bit of that gray coming in, and that's why it is nice to have this low light that fits really nicely, but it's also blending that gray. And you guys will notice when I am adding my low light color, I do pull the color all the way through. Some people leave out the ends. Personally, for me, I just like to refresh the color, especially on her because it's only a level 8. I don't really feel too bad about pulling color all the way through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do diagonal backs all the way through to this side till we get around to this corner, and I'll show you guys the other side too. All right, so now we got to the other side of her head, and this is the side where she has a little bit less hair, and kind of, if you guys remember, she had that cowlick kind of right here, close to this side. So instead of just doing this corner piece right here, I'm actually going to take this first foil, and you guys can see it kind of almost like arches the way that I had done the foils, and I still want to capture some of these little baby hairs. So I'm gonna take my first foil, just really, really lightly right here. And I think, again, this is kind of comes back to, I don't always have the exact foil placement for every single client. Now I work off a similar pattern, but every client's gonna be just a little bit different, and so I kind of customize it for every client. And every time, even their appointments could be a little bit different depending on how I place the foils. So just something to note that it's not always a exact cut and clear type thing. So we're gonna pull this foil up right here, and now I can kind of go into that corner, but I still will leave a little bit of that natural low light out is what I'm calling it. Do this next piece, because again, we don't want this to be like a blonde chunk right here, so. And if you guys are ever concerned about these little pieces in the front, when in doubt, go thinner than you think. If you're worried about them being chunky or too blonde or whatever, just go thinner. And it always works out in the best way. When you do a more thin foil, it's always gonna blend better. It's always gonna just lay really nicely. So if you're ever concerned about there being like a line right here, just do it nice and thin. Now I'll do one more kind of right just about here. So I'll take that natural low light, leave this out. I'm gonna do one more blonde one right here. And this is just kind of getting her widow's peak area. Most clients have that, and what I see a lot of hairstylists do is they do just the front hairline right here in the front and then the sides, and they miss this little peak area. And so when the client wears their hair back, they have what I call like a valley of darkness right there. We don't want that. No client wants that. They want to see brightness all the way through around their hair. So make sure to include this little section. It's really important. I didn't used to when I was first starting out because I was never taught to. And when I started to realize my clients had this like chunk of dark right there, I realized that, oh, I need to just add some foils there. So that's what I started doing, and it made the biggest difference. All right, so now we're gonna move around to her hairline right here. Should do a little bit thicker of a foil here. It doesn't need to be quite as thin, but I still will always weave it out. So you guys can see there's not a ton of hairs in this foil, and this is important to keep it really blended. And again, your clients will notice this stuff, especially when they've gone to a stylist before that maybe has left them with like blonde chunks around their face. These are the details that clients notice when it comes to highlights. When your blondes become picky about that stuff, that's a good thing. You actually want them to be a little picky about it because you can bring them that service of the high quality blonde around their face and not have these chunks of blonde. All right, so we're sticking with our 2 highlights to 1 low light. Now this little piece is gonna hang out here. I'm just gonna let that be our natural low light there versus trying to get it in a foil. I think that that's fine. We do wanna have some natural coming through too. Now you guys can see this piece kind of got a little bit tight in there with our lightener, so I'm just gonna kind of take my brush and pull that through. If you needed to, you could even take a towel or just even your finger and pull that through so that doesn't add a bleed mark there, because that's the last thing we want is a bleed mark right around the hairline. And now we're gonna do our low light. And I'm just gonna keep continuing back all the way, doing diagonal back sections until we reach this little corner. Alright, so just to recap, we did basically our sectioning was this mohawk all the way down till kind of about where the head starts to round out. We left it kind of stopped right there for our partial, and then we did these smaller little pieces right here to cover those alleyways, and then from around the hairline we basically just did diagonal backs all the way up. until we reached about this point right here. So with most of them, I did about 2 highlights to 1 low light, except for around the face where I did 2 highlights. Same thing here, I did about 3 highlights here in the top, and then these guys were mostly highlights, no low lights there. So just as a recap, that's pretty much our sectioning and what we did. It's almost like the basic highlight pattern, but I want to show you guys little ways that you can tweak it and make it your own. So I rinsed her, I shampooed her out, and I put on the Balayage Raw Acidic Care Color Care Milk Rinse just over her hair. We're actually not going to do a conditioner because this actually almost works as a conditioner for us. And one thing that I want to make note of is I don't do any toners on her because her highlights lift out really naturally and the lowlights blend really easily. She doesn't need a toner, she doesn't need a base bump. It's a really simple application where it's just your highlights and lowlights and then rinse it out. So we're going to rinse her, get her going, and I'll show you guys the results. And here is our final results. You guys can see how beautiful it looks, so shiny, so healthy, but look how blended it is. That gray is blended in there so nicely, and her lowlights just add so much dimension without adding too much depth or darkness. They just blend really well. It actually kind of warms up her hair a little bit too, instead of having it be so gray and ashy. I love how this turned out. You guys can see how it blends right around the hairline so beautifully and just looks so good. So I hope you guys try this out. All right guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope you picked up something new that you can use in the salon all the time. I'm all about creating really easy techniques that are easy to use and that are used in the salon a lot. So I'm not about creating those crazy techniques that you'll never use. This is a technique that you can use all the time, and I really hope you try it. So before I go, I hope that you guys actually try foiling backwards, and if you are somebody who foils forwards or backwards, let me know in the comments below which way you foil and if you're gonna try foiling backwards the way that I foil. And as always, make sure to hit the subscribe button below and turn on the little bell down there, because when you click on that bell, what it's gonna do is every time I post a brand new video, you're gonna be notified of when I post a new video, so you're gonna be some of the first people to see it and comment it and like it, right? As always, come over to Instagram and say hi. Let me know what you liked about this video, if you learned something, and like I said, if you're gonna try that backwards foiling technique. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.
All right. So there's Jamie Dana, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Make sure that you check out her channel. It's very gracious of her to allow us to use her content on this show for you guys to learn. So Jamie Dana, hairstylist Jamie Dana hairstylist on Instagram, and then also Jamie Dana hairstylist. Look her up on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. She has a couple 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, so a lot of you guys probably are subscribed, but some of you aren't. So go do that. Very cool, very cool. Love seeing all of your guys' comments. You guys are literally killing this thing, knocking it out of the park. This is a record show. We had at one point about 800 people live on the show, so I don't want to let that get away from us. We're gonna get into a men's cut now to kind of finalize the day. I want to do a real quick men's cut. I'm gonna do a live voiceover of it. Because I think it'll be fun and I can be interactive with you guys. I can see your questions and all of that. So we're going to get started with that. Now, this haircut is going to be a nice clean cut. I'm also going to kind of do this voiceover on the fly, but I remember the cut. So we're going to get started with it. And here we go. I got it loaded up. All right. So here is the haircut. All right, guys, so to start off this cut, what I'm going to do is I'm going to section it straight down the center back. We're going to be working diagonal forward partings from the occipital bone over to behind the ear, and I'm going to clip that away. If you guys have questions, make sure you just post them. This is going to be a little bit longer of a men's cut. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a vertical section basically straight out of the head. So because the occipital bone kind of curves in and towards the nape, what happens is I'm just going to cut that line all the way down. It'll get a little mullety looking, but I'm going to go in and clean that up later on in the cut. So everything's coming out over to the previous section. So I want you guys to stay focused on that. Over direction can really play a key role in it's everything in the outcome of the shape. So just bringing everything straight back to me, cutting a square back, a nice straight line in the haircut. So like I said, I'm going to be working with a razor to clean up the outer perimeter. So I'm not worried about the outer perimeter. I just want to get those interior layers at the right length for me. Now, based on bringing this back towards me, what's happening is I'm actually pushing weight to the front of the head. So that's all stuff that I will mess with later on in the cut. But I want that nice strong base in the back to start. All right, so now key thing as I move to the right side, what I want to do is I want to push the new hair towards the guideline. So I talk about this in a lot of my videos, but as I'm cutting hair, you always want to take the new section and pull it to the guide. If you take the guide and you pull it to the new section, you're creating a new guide because you're stretching the guide and making it shorter. So it's always important to make sure that that new hair is coming to the guideline, but we are still traveling across the back of the head. Now, some people are commenting about the way I'm holding the scissor. I'm just holding it in a down motion because sometimes that helps with your wrist. So if you look at some different things, I would have to kind of bend my arm in and my elbow. So as I get lower on that section, I shift the scissor backwards in my hand and it allows my wrist not to change. A lot of you guys out there, you know, we can suffer from carpal tunnel and all of those things. So I want to make sure that my wrist isn't moving and adjusting too much. Okay, so now we're working our way back. Last section here. And now we've finalized the back. So you can see those square layers working their way across the head. Now what I'm going to do is go in and actually remove using a chopstick razor to just soften the edge on this cut. So one thing when you're using a razor to cut hair, one of my favorite things to do is just to kind of play around with how much back and forth movement I do with the razor. The more back and forth movement that you have, the more layered effect you're going to get. And the tighter movement that you have, the more precise line you're going to get. So as I'm working through here, I'm doing a kind of a half motion to get some movement in there, but not obviously to add too much, take away too much density in it. So now we're going to move into the side. We'll comb everything forward on the top, clip that away, and we're going to work diagonal back partings. And now we're going to work a round shape. So before we were cutting square in the back, everything was a straight line back. And now we're going to work diagonal back, cutting with the round of the head. So I take a new section and I bring it down into that guideline. Now I'm going with a little bit heavier stroke back and forth with the razor because I really want to create a ton of texture into this cut. So working that technique back and forth, and the deeper I go with that razor, the more texture, the more weight we remove, and the softer the shape. Now we're going to connect into the back. So if you guys have any questions, make sure that you post them. I'd love to be able to answer them live on here. So I can see my guideline from underneath. and that's where I'm cutting. But I'm not trying to be too precise with this because, again, I want the shape, but I want it to be nice and soft. The razor that I'm actually using on this cut is the Donald Scott chopstick razor from Donald Scott New York. I like this tool. It's not one that I use a ton, but when I'm working with more precise shapes, I like using this tool. Otherwise, I usually use the carving comb, and you could do this technique with the carving comb as well. But working that hairline in those tighter spaces, I like using the chopstick for that. All right, so now I'm going to section off the other side of the top, clip that away, and then we're going to do the same thing on this side, working diagonal back partings. So Brenda's saying that she's had surgery on both hands. So it's definitely like when you think about the importance of the longevity, like a lot of us are behind the chair for lots of years, right? Like I know people that have been cutting hair for 40 years. You have to take care of your wrists, especially early. I know Brian Hare was in the chat talking about swivel scissors. He uses swivels. I never got into using a swivel scissor, so I just kind of shift my hand and it works out for me. But swivel scissors do kind of help with that, keeping your wrists straight. Lynn's saying, I don't think I've ever razored a guy's cut. I love, like, especially with longer men's hair, when you cut it with a scissor, sometimes it becomes a little too precise and thick. Right. So depending on the guest density, I like to make sure that I focus on that first. So if they have a high density of hair, I go with the razor, but I do that with women's hair too. So a lot of people, are scared of a razor. I personally think as long as you have a sharp blade, a brand new blade, for every cut, that you don't have to worry about any damage because it's sharper than a scissor. But at the same time, if you have somebody with a high density of hair, I think it works the best. So like my wife, business partner, she has the most hair ever. And it's so thick and I've been cutting it forever. And forever I was using a scissor and the result was always too thick. When I started using the carving comb, I could really remove a ton of weight. And then I started seeing more success in my cuts because it's just a softer feel. So being able to go through there, now I'm adding point cutting. So we're really matching it up. You can see that disconnection of the top. And this scissor, I actually sold in an auction to raise money. We were raising money for childhood cancer research. And I auctioned off this scissor. I loved this thing. Hopefully the person that has it is enjoying it. But this is a blacksmith fit solid scissor from Mizutani with a titanium finish on it. Large blade. It's got a ton of power. And I'm just working through doing some scissor over comb work right around the ear just to blend that up. Swivel Army. Nice, Brian. Nice. All right, so now I just take the point of the chopstick razor and I work my way through, just softening that back edge. That's where I over-directed everything, so it pushed all that weight behind the ear. So if I just want to remove a tiny bit of weight, I go in with just the tip of the razor and take out the weight that way. We'll finish it up with a little blow drying, and then I'm going to add some product in. This to me, like, so if you don't want it to have like the old school Justin Bieber kind of flow going, and you really want something with texture and movement that looks modern, this technique is great because it creates all that texture. Now I go in with a little bit of Rousel. This is just a wet pomade, but it's got a really nice firm hold to it. And I put that in the hair and I work it back. The key to men's hair is making sure that you blow it dry first. So I blew it dry in all the directions I wanted it to be. I don't put product in the wet hair because if I do that, it becomes way too diffused. So So that's kind of the key there. I hope you guys like that cut. I want to stop it before I jumped on the screen or something. But that cut, nice long cut for you guys. I actually think we showed that in a previous show. I don't know if that was the clip I wanted to go with, but whatever. We did it together and I did it live and I didn't do that last time. So I hope you guys like this cut. Let me know in the comments if what you want to see next show, because I'm ready. I can't wait for tomorrow. We killed it today in the chat. You guys did the best job. I literally am social distance hugging you right now for all the sharing that you did and the tagging of your friends and all of that. This has got to be the record show for sure, especially ending it with the numbers that we have. So that's what it's all about. We're doing this daily at 12 o'clock Eastern time, trying to get you guys, just sharing education, taking requests. You can always send requests to me through the phone number, which is 845-275-3733. I get texts all day at that number with requests. It helps me load up the show for the next day. Laura, could you do a tutorial for razor cutting for a student or for someone that hasn't used one? College hasn't really shown us. Yeah, I mean, so razor cutting for me, like we have a ton of razor cutting videos, and that kind of brings up what I wanted to talk about at the end here, which is FSE Now. So the FSE Now app is available now. It's free. There's a ton of education on there. All of these videos, so like the air balayage video by itself without being on this show will go onto that app. So you'll be able to see it on there in its own form. So you can just click it and watch it and learn. So that'll be on there later today. And then, all of the videos that I create go on there first. And then we put them out to the public on all the social media channels. So if you want to see things first and you want to be a part of the FSE community, sharing your work, I'd love to see it. Download the FSE Now app so that we can stay connected in that way. I think that's pretty much it. Do you guys have any questions about anything? What requests do you want to see? What videos do you want to see coming up? Kristen, you can find pretty much any hair video on the app. You're right. Thank you so much. Let's see. Look at this. I'm going to put this up here just because. Thanks, Brian. Let's see. All right, cool. Are you giving giveaways today? So that's a good question. I don't have any giveaways today, but maybe I should get some giveaways. Maybe tomorrow I'll do giveaways for you guys. I definitely have stuff around here, but maybe I can get a company to jump on and start doing some giveaways for you guys so that as you're live on here, we can do that. All right, I'm going to end the show. I'd like to see an inverted bob. That's a great one. I'm going to work on that. I'll work on that for you. Let's see. All right, let me get this loaded so I'm ready to go. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for being so active in the chat. Thank you for making this the best one yet. Let's keep this thing growing. If you get a chance, you're watching this later, just hit the share button. Share it. That's all I ask. That's the cost of the show. We're going to do it every day live at 12 o'clock. And it's going to be a good time. So what do we say? Thanks, Kristen. Thanks, Lynn. It's awesome seeing everybody like familiar names in the chat. Love it. Let's keep it growing. What do we say at the end of this show? What is it? It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great day.
It's going to be a great day.
Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one.
Flip it. I woke up this way. It's going to be a great day. Chop it, flip it, spray it, flip it. Let me show you the way. It's going to be a great day. Chop it, flip it, spray it, flip it. I woke up this way.